Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the SPS DAOn Hall. I am Clay Boyne, your host, and today we're going to be joined by David Fox, the CEO of Double Coconut, to discuss the current state of Soul Keep, the ongoing proposal, and try to figure out a game plan of how to move forward. How you doing today, David?
Hey, Claymont. Doing well.
Yeah, I know you and I kind of keep in touch behind the scenes. I know a lot of people don't always see all this stuff, but like usually, I'm trying to like relay, what's going on. That's how we've ended up getting, like the deck burn implemented, and then we ended up getting the SPS staking implemented. Now, definitely it seems like currently people are wanting like at least some sort of reset. uh, I think part of the problem is it seems that like at least the perception. I've looked into it a little bit, but it seems like the perception is there's like a handful of people that are basically taking about like half the rewards that are allocated. Either like one person being in League 10 by themselves, but also like it seems like there's like some multi-accounting issues. So, I'll give you the floor here, and then we can kind of get into some questions. So, like, what's your thoughts on the current situation?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start with, let me try to go in order quickly, very quickly. And I'm probably rehashing this for a bunch of people, but let's talk about where things were and some issues that were, where things are today, at least in my most uh, honest assessment of it. And I think the goal here really needs to be being honest about everything. And there's a lot of misinformation that I've seen in Discord, and a lot of people who are making claims that I don't think are ill intent, but just misinformed. And then then where we're going, or where we suggest to go, and where we really believe things ought to go, and then hearing from everybody on that. So in terms of the past, we launched well, let's go way back, right? With the game began as a co-dev between Splinterlands and Double Coconut. We had a really cool vision, which we outlined like 2 years ago, or a year and a half at this point. Um, we were able to raise funds through pack sale to develop a very, very big and complex tower defense game in terms of everything I think that we promised, we delivered. When it came time to launch the game, there were issues at the time doing so, just due to everything else going on with the crypto winter and Splinterlands, uh, inability to launch the game with us due to other higher pressing concerns, right? So the game didn't launch for a while. We finally got a deal where Double Coconut acquired the game. We were able to launch it, and the game is now launched, right? When we launched, we definitely had well, we had many bugs, right? Like any game. The game is actually fairly stable, believe it or not, at least in the history of game launches that we've been involved with and that we've seen across our peers. These things are very natural for a complex multiplayer game, but definitely some bugs. Also, we had some what I'd call exploits, which were actually part of the design, but just kind of edge cases and emergent behavior of the rules that we didn't consider, where certain people, cleverly got away with getting farther in the game than we had anticipated. Um, so where we are today, all of those known exploits are solved. We believe we have much fairer distribution in terms of all of the systems design of how things work. There are some players though that A, definitely took advantage of exploits, and B, have spent a lot, both of time and money, to get way, way more advanced than they could, and they've taken I wouldn't say taken advantage. What they've done is they've gamed a game, and they've actually played the game as it should be played. And I think the main thing is there's just not enough players. So those people at the top are getting way too much SPS, and we totally agree with that and acknowledge that. But we also had not taken action so far because we wanted to be fair and respect what those players have done, which was in good faith. So I'll stop there, but that's where we are. And I stop there also. If anyone wants to correct there or debate anything said there, I would relish that and be open to that. But that's where we are today. So I could either keep going about the immediate steps we know we're going to take, in light of this proposal and in light of what's going on, and then kind of the more medium-term steps to get to a stable place for the game where we can grow. Um, and I also want to talk about just the growth in general of the business and some things that are happening and how this proposal can stymie that.
Yeah, and one thing that like I want to actually remind people of here is Splinterlands has had 6 years to get where it's at, and I mean I think we can all generally agree it's still not completely perfect. But I can remember Splinterlands coming out and like cards didn't even have stats. There was no game. Over time, like we've had to fix problems. There's been like botting exploits. Like there's always going to be complications, and especially I don't think you guys have like a background in Web 3, right? Like most of your stuff is like historically Web 2. So I think your studio has like some growing pains here and like some learning that's going to be required. And like that's one of the reasons why like I've kind of just been kind of like pushing for patience a little bit from people. And I can understand why people are upset too, especially whenever you look at like the input of like the top earner and soul keep versus the output, and then you compare it to
Yep. Yep.
like Splinterlands where you've got to have like I think my modern deck is probably worth like $10,000. And I can tell you I don't make
Yeah,
anything even like in the remote vicinity of what that guy's making a day. So
that's
it's
right.
like I think some of it is comparison, but like I said, I think something that like people need to be mindful of is that like it takes time to get these things sorted out.
Yeah, and I'll note. I think I don't want to name the individual, but if you go on Discord, he's been very active in discussions too, and I think he gets it too, right? He gets that he got ahead a little too far. Good for him, but I think he's also open now to a reset. So I mean, just to jump to immediate stuff, we're very we should have done this sooner, and we can talk about why that wasn't communicated clearly enough to us, or why we didn't get the message until the proposal, and that's on us. Um, but we definitely can stop the rewards. The main reason we didn't, of course, is just we don't want to upset players, and that's the number one thing is upsetting players. But I think now most players will get it as long as we communicate it well that it's a temporary stoppage, not a stopping forever. So we can stop rewards right away. Like literally, we're going to try this weekend. Obviously, our engineers have lives and working on the weekend not ideal, but definitely by Monday we can stop rewards. So that's for sure committed to. And then we also committed to within a few days we could put another proposal with details in writing of some of the immediate steps that we're going to take or that we suggest to take. And this proposal would be a draft that we want comments on, and I think most of the comments are known and there, and we've read them all. But we want comments on them, and I'll go through a high level right now if you want, Claiborne, of what we're thinking in terms of kind of the immediate steps that we can take that we know we can do without like major rebalancing and new features and months of development. So let me
Okay.
know if you want me to jump into that or
Yeah,
can go another direction.
let's go ahead and just kind of like give people an overview, and then like some of the questions we have may be answered, just by like
Yep.
hearing what you have to say, and then what I'll do is like while we're listening to you, like I'll look over the pre-sorted questions, just like if I hear us like answer one, like I'll probably go ahead and like mark it off, but I'm gonna do my best to make sure we get to everyone's questions. So I know that there's people in Discord, and where most people are probably on YouTube right now because you can't hear David in Discord. But if you want to drop questions in the YouTube chat, I'm watching that, and we have some pre-sorted questions in Discord. And if you are only in Discord, which would be kind of weird at this point since you couldn't hear David, but just tag me if I'm not getting your question, and we'll try to get everybody's questions answered. So yeah, go ahead, David.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I've we read their questions in Discord too. I think this will answer a lot of them. So first and foremost, we'll reset folks, and why didn't we do it sooner? Because it seasonal resets are something we actually wanted to do all along, and actually in the plan for upcoming features. We just wanted to do it mindfully and communicate it well, not just reset people, which is unfair to those who were playing in good faith. That's why we didn't do it, but obviously it's come to this point, we're going to do it. And the good thing is the people who are affected actually get it. Well, we'll get it now too, right? They get it. They want a game rather than no game. Um, so so that's going to happen, within days of the new proposal, assuming that that new proposal passes. Um, we will have a different distribution scheme, probably less SPS per day, and then the way we'll distribute it will absolutely be more democratic. So even if there are few players in the game, I think we designed our systems assuming several thousand players, going up through leagues together. Obviously, that's not what happened. With the reset, that should not happen again. But in any case, if it does, and if a handful of players are able to push and get to these top leagues more quickly than others, the SPS distribution will not be weighted so heavily. It will still be weighted so the top people in the top league get more, but not crazy amount like now, which we acknowledge is really outsized, right? So that's going to stop, and we'll put some details in the proposal. We're going to limit the number of times you could play a tournament per day. We'll have a scheme for that. So right now there's kind of unlimited amounts of that you can do. Soul boxes are already limited. We might limit that more, but soul boxes are not a major factor right now. But we might put some more limits on there. And one of the things floated, which I definitely want to discuss more with community and folks, is having tournaments have random battle rules for different players. We avoided that because we wanted fairness. We wanted people who play a tournament to be playing on the same battlefield. Um, that said, we already were in the works, and this is going to be, not an immediate release, but we have much more interesting battle rules coming. Our vision for the game has always been that the game needs to be fun, right? You play the game, and right now I think there's a few strategies that people do repeatedly, day after day after day, that they like and that they use their NFTs for, and that's not that. Not only is it kind of a repetitive exercise and people are getting too far ahead, it's also boring, right? It's just it becomes a set thing. There's no challenge for the player. So we have ideas that every time you play, you'll be like, "Whoa, oh shit, I gotta pardon my French. Crap, we got to figure out a different NFT to use. We have to figure out a different tower arrangement, different spell arrangement. We want it to be a lot more a lot more tactical and a lot more thinky every day, where there's really a lot of playing and replaying you need to do to min max and figure out the right configuration of towers and spells to win that day's tournament. So we have some ideas there that we have to do a lot of vetting out and a lot of play testing on, but that's what's coming. So yeah, sorry, I talked a lot, and that last part is not, again, that last part is not going to be in the immediate term, but everything else would be, literally within days of the proposal passing.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Like one of the things that I could say, whenever we're talking about like limiting, like limiting the number of tournament entries, like one of the things that I know a lot of people have like asked me about, and I mean, I don't really know how to answer it other than like I'll mention it to David, but it seems like a lot of people want like just some way to just play the game, right? And I know that that's one of the criticisms that I get is it's I think on some level like that is what's encouraging multi-accounting too. Like if there's no randomized rule sets, it kind of like encourages just like figure out the solution and then go use more free entries to play. But also, like if
Yeah.
you just want to play the game, whether you're winning rewards or not, it's like it's kind of gated based on whether or
Yeah.
not.
Oh, sorry.
So like that's one of the things I know. Like we've kind of discussed previously, and I know like it's probably more like in the big picture, as development kind of like unfolds. But I know that that's something people want is they definitely want the ability to just play the game.
Yeah, so actually that's in our roadmap. It was actually coming soon. That'll actually take back seat compared to these other things, but we were going to make gateway maps replayable. Because it's not that difficult of a feature, right? There's no rewards associated with it, but just be able to replay your gateway maps and try different towers and so on. So that definitely something we're going to do.
Okay, so let's see. one of the questions here, uh, if we, if we, I guess, if everybody voting, like, if they stop the current proposal, what's to stop this from happening again, right? Like, so, like, I guess, like, if another bug or another exploit gets reported, like, will there be more, I guess, swift or like immediate reactions instead of, obviously it's not ideal if things get to this point because you and I have both talked about it, but like whenever it gets to the point that like people are voting to turn off the rewards, it's kind of like the molehill has turned into a mountain at this point. It's going to be a lot more effort for us to kind of like reverse course.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually flip that question around in light of where we're at. I mean, this proposal, um, in some senses, not surprising because I know where the power lies, right? It's very clear, and that's in the DAO's right. Um, but I really like Captain Dingus, one of the very vocal critics of the game, who's been what I like is he's been very critical of the game, but he's also really tried to put forth solutions to the problems, and he's written some great articles and been uh, very active in discussions. And I really like what he said. He said people who have no interest in the game or haven't played it are about to cast a very significant vote on something which will have monumental consequences for those who do play it and who did spend a lot of money on assets to play it, without understanding what's happening and how it could be fixed. And I think that's the bottom line: is if we're not trusting each other as the DAO and the SPS ecosystem, they don't see value in the game overall, then what's to stop the DAO from stopping rewards again? Nothing. And there's certainly enough people who don't play the game who have enough SPS to stop the game. Um, so I actually want to just argue why that's a bad idea. Um, right. So obviously there's been a lot of investment in the game, multi-million dollars of investment, both from players and from companies like Splinterland and Double Coconuts, right? We've put a lot of time into the game and a lot of true money, and now there are assets, right? There's several $1 million. I mean, we could quantify it, but it's probably a good two and a half, $3 million of assets um, out there being traded in the Splinterlands marketplace and in the Hive market, in the Hive universe, related to Soulkeep. And to stop rewards would potentially make those assets go to zero, right? And that's just a bad idea for the ecosystem, in my opinion. And it's the amount of rewards now, and we could talk about reducing those too, is a very small price to pay, in my opinion, for keeping that amount of assets alive and thriving, and giving us. And this is the third point: we really do continue to be invested in the game in terms of the efforts we're making on a business side to grow the game and get in a wider audience. And we have many partnerships we're actively discussing. Um, we have fundraising uh, conversations currently happening, and stopping the rewards, reducing the DAU of the game would be detrimental. I'm not saying it won't happen if the rewards stop, but it's going to be very tough. It's a much more friction to have these type of conversations that are going to be good for the game, good for Splinterlands as a whole, good for Hive as a whole. So, you know, if even if you have nothing to do with Soulkeep, even if you don't care about the game and hate the game, if you care about SPS, I really think it's important to keep these rewards going.
Yeah, I know that's something that, like, we kind of just. I think we just did this like a month ago, but it's something like we were discussing. It's like the idea is ultimately to get like more people coming and more deck burns, which ultimately return the value to the SBS. So it's like
Yeah.
currently like we have a it's like, I guess in some ways you can kind of look at like the current reward situation, even like like yeah, like some work needs to be done. We got that, but like I think overall that like we kind of like have to almost look at the current SPS distribution going into Soulkeep as an investment into the future, hoping that we get returns out of it. And yeah, I mean, like I don't think that there's any way to just kind of like immediately have a player base, but it does seem like you guys are working on moving outside of the ecosystem, which is something that Splinterlands has kind of struggled with for a while. And we're hoping now that we've got Blaze on marketing that we're going to start to see some more external growth. Let me see. So we got another question kind of related to the previous one. Um, if the current proposal passes, are you guys going to continue to work on the game, or is this just like kind of like the end?
Well, so I want to also be clear now because there's been claims that Double Coconut is like uh, pulling money out of the game. The game is not profitable for us by far right now. It's still very much an investment. Um, and anyone who looks at you could see the DC and credit spent on chain. You can vet this fact for yourself. Others have done it on Discord and done the math. We have multiple team of full-time and a lot of part-time people on the game right now actively supporting it. And we have uh, the ongoing roadmap, and plus we have the ongoing hosting costs, right? So the game is not profitable for us. So we're running it. We still have a lot of bullets in chamber, and we're going to get this game successful. I'm really committed to that, pushing for that. Again, it's about these partnerships. It's about growing the audience. I don't think there's a magical way to make the game, start kicking off tons of revenue from the existing audience. It's about bringing in new people, and elevating the price of everyone's assets, right? It's simple, but it's difficult. So we're committed to that, but without rewards and without a user base, which a lot of the user base is there obviously because of the rewards, that's going to be an uphill battle. And we're going to stop working on the game? Of course not. It's our asset, and we've already invested tons into it. But it's we have to really think if SPS is the right place for the game to be. If that's not, if SPS and the SPS DAO doesn't want us there.
I mean, I think that's fair too. I mean, if the community basically votes to cut ties, then I mean, I think you guys would totally be in your rights to explore other options, and that could end up being like a really bad lost opportunity for like this community. But ultimately it's a DAO. DAO is going to decide what it wants to do. We've had issues in the past that come up where like we had issues with liquidity pools, for example, where we had a bunch of liquidity pools that were making tons of SPS inflation go out, and ultimately the community's like, we don't see any value in it, or like there's no volume going through the pools, so like ultimately they'll cut the inflation there. We ended up having like a tournament rework because previously we were giving something like 21% of all tournament rewards were going to alpha tournaments only, and I think 17% of that was going to gold foil alpha tournaments. And part of the problem, and one of the reasons why I think it's very important to stay on top of this stuff, is it's like the longer these issues fester, it feels like the more I guess proportional might be the right word, but like it seems like the response gets amplified, right? Like, so instead of
Yeah.
like maybe like reduced rewards to like specific tournaments, we ended up seeing like just cut them off entirely. And I think that like whenever we make these kind of like extreme moves like this, it has long term repercussions. Especially with something like Soul Keep, if we just like 100% say no more, it's done. Like there's no more SPS rewards. Like that is one of my concerns. Is kind of like what you were touching on earlier. Is it's everybody with holding packs or holding cards is basically going to be put in a position where they're hoping you guys figure out some other game plan, or like move them to somewhere where they get some kind of return. And definitely there's going to be short term pain there, but it's kind of like one of those things where it is what it is. It's like the DAO has to believe that there's some value and some future in the project, and hopefully, if we can get some of these questions addressed today, we can kind of like smooth over some of the bigger complaints.
Yeah, and listen, I know these votes go too, and I do think the vote, or sorry, I think the proposal and the speed it was pushed through, and the um, the very binary nature of it wasn't wasn't the way I would have done it if I was on the other side, right? But it shouldn't be another side thing. It's not about us holding each other hostage. It's about the players, right? And my concern is if this stops and players are left in limbo, they're just going to abandon the game. And if players abandon the game, it's not about whether Double Coconut wants to continue it or not continue it. It's about if the players aren't there, we can't actively be playing the game. And um, one of the most valuable thing of having players is we're constantly rebalancing some stuff and seeing real behavior, right? And some of that has been embarrassing stuff we maybe should have anticipated but didn't. Um, but it's all about having players in the game, and they need to feel like they are supported and active. And I'm worried that this proposal really, is a slap in the face to them, and that's what concerns me. Now that said, I'm not naive. I know the way these proposals work, the way voting works. Probably a lot of people have just mindlessly hit the up button and not even aware of this conversation. So the proposal might pass. We're not going to give up. We're going to pass. We're going to put forth another proposal to bring it back very quickly. But if we do that a few times and it's still getting shut down, then yeah, the message is clear for us.
Okay, and I want to address this question because I'm getting it from multiple people, from Paul and Fluid Flame in the YouTube chat. They're basically asking the same thing. They're asking like, will you essentially like immediately stop the SPS distribution until the like some of the solutions you're pitching are in place? And I think you kind of
Yes.
already
Yeah.
answered that and said probably like
Yeah. We will
Monday.
do it. We will do that by Monday in any case, right? Just to be clear, because it's at that point now. So yeah, even if it seems like the proposal is still going up, down, that's not, it's not about that. We'll stop that now. Message is clear. Um, and this proposal, I guess the one good thing of it is it gives us the impetus for our player base to explain why we're stopping it. And we're not being the evil devs stopping it. We're stopping it because the community agrees to stop it, and we need to rethink the structure as a community.
See, we got a question comment from Dave here. It says, I think that your attention to the issues we care about are the most important thing. I don't think many people are voting for the proposal that want to see you fail. It sounds like you're going to stop the SPS rewards by the end of the weekend on your own and then tell us what you're going to fix before you restart them. To me, this means you listen to our concerns. In the future, I would like to see you listen and respond better when I guess Claiborne, bring up community issues because he doesn't do this lightly. Again, we want to see you succeed, so don't be too concerned about us stopping it. Just focus on working together.
Yeah, everything was correct, and I agree with all that. The one thing I'll say, and this is true of very big companies like big publishers like you take two EA, etc., and true of very small teams like ours, is it's hard to move fast, right? For big teams, it's hard because of the communication. For small teams, it's hard because of the resources. So we definitely have been listening. I know we don't have a full-time community person, right? We just don't. That's not one of the things that we can afford right now. We definitely want that, and definitely going to get there. So yeah, we know we've been lax in terms of responding back, but we definitely listen. Yeah, we definitely listen. We definitely listen to everything in Discord. We're there. We definitely listen to everything in support. We need to definitely do a better job of commenting back, and especially when things bubble up to the point they are now. But I assure you, we've never not taken what people have been saying seriously. It's just a matter of the speed that we can address things.
Um, I can probably answer this one, but we got another question. If the rewards are stopped, but still irrigated, I'm not sure what. Like, I think I get what they're trying to say there, right? Like, basically, if we pause the rewards, are they just going to are they basically going to double coconut? And that's not how it works. So no.
No.
Like if the rewards are paused, they're basically just like the inflation endpoint is stopped, and they're not being printed at the moment. So which like in theory that means like if we turn them back on, they just pick up where they stopped instead of like it's not like they're losing tokens for the rewards while they're paused. And it's definitely not like double coconuts just getting a whole bunch of SPS. Like it doesn't work like that. Just
No,
did you have
it
any?
affects the players. It's affecting the players. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I figured I could probably take that one. If you guys have any other questions, like I said, either drop them in the YouTube chat or tag me on Discord, and I will, I will get at them to David. But while we're waiting on that, do you have like, I know you said you kind of wanted to talk about, like your future plans and like some of the partnerships and stuff that you're working on.
The main, yeah, the main thing is investments, right? So there's two types of things that we're focusing on. One is other communities and gaming hubs that have the ability to bring in people. So that's very, very likely, and we have stuff we're definitely going to announce there probably soon. But I know I'm being vague, but I just don't want to ruin any deals before they're signed. Um, and and then investment, right? And investment is tougher. We need a good story, but we actually have some great conversations that we're very far along with there. And I think I think investors are potentially listening to this, and I hope they are, and I hope they like the message they hear. And this is going to be a good little story point in the growth of the game. And we're going to get through it, I think. But we got to do this together, right? It's cliche, but it's the way it is.
Yeah. Lewis, if you're having trouble with the audio, it might be like through Discord because basically like we're on YouTube now, so like that's the only way you're gonna hear David anyway. But it seems like most people say the audio is better on YouTube anyway. But yeah,
Oh,
man,
cool.
like to me, like that's sorry for the interjection there. I was trying to address like one of the questions for me. Let's see. Oh, to follow up on the question about the rewards being stopped if they're going to the company. No, I mean since Monday there will be no rewards. Is the SPS still minted until the proposal passes? Um, yeah, yeah. Well, what's going to happen basically is David is saying like they're going to voluntarily stop regardless of the proposal that is ongoing because they got the message. So like they're not going to keep distributing the token until they get some of these issues addressed. That's how I understood it, right, David?
Yep.
Yeah. So
That's 100% right.
basically, like they're not waiting for the proposal to pass or fail. They're going to pause the rewards and address it either way.
Yeah. And again, it's not something we'd like to do because of our players, right? It's like that it's not something that players want, and but we're going to do it. It's much more important that we get to a place where rewards are getting much more democratically distributed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most important thing, and this kind of like addresses one of the other concerns, like I saw from Fluid Flame. It's like, I think it would be silly to not say that, like, obviously the way like, the top league player in Soulkeep got there, it was taking advantage. It was smart, like finding the ways to kind of like break the game. Which I mean, that's a valid way to play games. Unfortunately, it's
Well,
just
I
like
mean, also, again, I'll add spending a lot. Now, granted, spending a lot less than he's earning, right? So again,
yeah,
that was a good spreadsheeting there, but he did spend a lot and did a lot of risky investment to make that happen. So that and that still should be, you know, that's still part of the game, right? That's still part of a crypto game. That'll still be the case when we relaunch. People who play a lot and people who find the right way to play and people who invest a lot will rise through the leagues, and that's how it should be. But I think it just got way too fast, too furious, and too few. So three bad
yeah,
Fs.
yeah. I think like part of the issue from what I saw was like I think you guys did try to address the issue. But it's just like the way it was addressed, like essentially, it solved the problem, but like he kind of like already benefited from it. So there was essentially like it kind of created a situation where other people couldn't catch up, and I think that
Yep. Yep.
that's what most people were upset about is they were like there's now this like basically like siloed off player that we can't catch up with, and I think that that's what people were mostly complaining about.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the people who did well with this were complaining about us changing the rules on them, which I think is valid too, right? So we're
Yeah,
trying to balance it all, but yeah, definitely in retrospect, and again, in some ways, this proposal is helping us make this difficult choice to uh, to tell these players, sorry, you're right, the rules were the rules, but we're gonna claw it back, right? It's like a new Fed is passing a stock market rule, and we're clawing back your profits, and it's not something we like to do, but sometimes Feds have to do that for the fairness of the whole economy.
yeah, it's just like it's like I can tell you that's one thing that like I've had to deal with a lot over the last years. It's sometimes like any decision you make, someone's going to be upset, and uh, especially when it comes to a DAO, I try to basically just detach my own personal feelings. Like a lot of times I don't even vote just because like I feel like that in some way like influences the outcome because a lot of people do kind of like look to me and my thoughts on things. And it's kind of weird because like I don't ever like view myself as like the quote unquote like leader. Like I view myself as somebody that's like working on behalf of and representative. So it's like something I deal with, but I got to imagine the situation you guys are in too. It's just like it's sometimes it's very difficult, right? And I mean, you know, you, you're going to basically risk pissing off like your most loyal customer because the other ones are upset. But it's at some point like there just has to be like that balance, and I think that's the thing. Like even if even the guy that like most of the people are complaining about is coming out saying he agrees that like something should be done, there should be a reset. And like clearly, obviously he's benefited from it already, but like at least he's willing to admit that there's a problem. He'll
Yep.
ultimately agree that something should be done.
Yep. And the people at the top need healthier competition so that they're actively continuing to spend on the game, and add to it, and then but ultimately, and we've been saying this every town hall, it's all about having new players and more players and come in, and I for one think we're on the resurgence of a new crypto. I don't know if it's going to be a summer or spring, but I think crypto gaming is going to bounce back in a major way, potentially even bigger than it was before, right? And to those who invest in the game, keep holding, keep leveling up the cards, I think the rewards are going to be quite large. That's not nothing but speculation, but I think it'd be a big mistake to to throw that out.
Um, well, uh, I don't think either of us like wanted to like single out individuals, but Alex has come out into the chat to speak for himself, so I will just I will read his comments for the people that aren't keeping up with chat. Um, and for those who are not fully in the loop, Alex is the guy that most people are complaining about making like 8,000 SPS a day. So just I that's your context. Alex says, I just wanted to say that I did not break any rules and played with one account. I think the developers can check this and confirm I spent the most money on tickets and soul boxes to be in the first place, and now I'm just suffering because of the envy of other people. I fully support resetting the leagues and will once again restart this race from the first to the 10th league. So, I think, at least like being willing to like own that the situation is not ideal and that like, a reset is in order. I think that's good. And, you know, I think the issue, Alex, like I'm just gonna say, and this is what I was telling David. I don't think the issue is how you did things. I think that the main issue is whenever like basically like the team tried to fix the exploit. Like what happened is it basically created a situation where you were already so far ahead that nobody else could like kind of come behind and do the same tactics. So basically, they were essentially stuck in a situation where they couldn't fairly compete with you, or that's that's how most people feel is they can't fairly compete, and that's the main issue why I think so many people are upset. It's not that you got ahead, it's not that you're doing well, it's that nobody else feels like they can also do well. So guys, don't like go out hating on people. We're all trying to work together to solve this issue. Just I think it's fair that if Alex wants to represent himself, that we should at least also share his thoughts.
Yep. Thanks, Clay. And just as a quick side note too, in terms of service and how you know how we believe we ought to operate, as the developer, there's bugs and there's min-maxing of rules and exploits, right? So the reason we didn't claw back earlier was because we thought that the soul harvesting was an exploit. It was something in the rules that someone figured out, and we definitely should have clamped it down faster. But clawing back just felt unfair. So this allows us to do that, and I'm glad that Alex is acknowledging that. I'm sure he'd rather uh, have a game that he can play and keep getting rewards from, rather than abandon the game entirely, right? So, and then the second thing is bugs, right? So there was a when we first released the soul boxes, there was like a several hour period where people could buy as many soul boxes as they want. That was an out and out bug, and that we immediately rectified anybody who took advantage of that bug. And that's something in our terms of service. So if we release something that's an out and out bug, that's within our rights, and most games service has this, and I think it's a good thing, again, for the game and for the ecosystem. We'll correct that. So, but we do have a commitment to being fair to our players, and that's sacrosanct.
I mean, I think, like I said, I think that's one of the weird situations where like no matter what you do, someone's going to be upset. But I do think that like I can personally see the difference, right? Like the people figuring out weird strategic ways to kind of like min max and take advantage of the game the way that it exists is like to me that's something that like we do in video games. Like it's not just like a Web3 thing. I think in Web3 it's much more contentious because people are comparing earnings. But I mean, yeah, I can tell you, like, I used to play Skyrim, and I was one of the people that would put the bucket on the head of the guys that are like, the merchants, so that I can just walk around the shop and pick up all the stuff. I mean, like,
Yeah.
clearly, I don't think Bethesda meant for the game to be played like that, but, it works, so it's like, why not, right? But, I think especially whenever we're talking about, like, Web3, there are financial implications, so uh, I think a lot of it is it ultimately kind of like comes down to like having to make more like immediate decisions, right? And it's
Yep.
not always easy
Yep.
to do, but like in a situation where like he's starting to like pull like so far ahead because of these spawners, for example. Like I think it's as soon as like the complaints start coming in, or like the unintended behavior starts to become you know I guess vocalized, it's kind of like you just have to like respond or like determine a course of action immediately. Like whether the course of action is just like let everybody keep doing that, and then have to figure out how to handle it when you have like too many people in League 10, or make some kind of like swift adjustment. It's yeah, like it's not always easy, but I think that that's something like maybe this whole situation will just make it more clear that sometimes like more immediate action is just needed, especially in Web3 because there's financial implications.
Yeah. And just one quick thing, and this will be coming, and I don't know the shape it'll take, and we'll talk about it and try to do a better job of um, getting feedback from the community before we lock down decisions on it. But a lot of the solutions to what you just talked about, Clay, are seasons, right? So almost every game has they release a meta and something's overpowered, and um, and they have a new season and they reset and nerf the overpowered item and put in something else that's overpowered typically. So it's an ongoing thing, and that could actually be kind of part of the fun, right? If part of the season is there are things that change and you have to come up with new strategies, that goes back to what we said before. So how to make seasons fun, fair, um, but then also kind of deal with this thing where there will be exploits or strategies that just become too maxed out, and seasons will be the way to address that.
Okay, and so just I'm not seeing a lot more. Actually, hold on. Okay, yeah. So talking about multi-accounting, and this is something that we kind of like addressed earlier. I think like I said, part of it I think is due to the way that there's like the one free entry per account, and then having static rule sets. It kind of like encourages it. And just to touch on what you're saying there, Alessandro, I think part of the solution there, and this is things that we were discussing earlier, is like I think you guys probably have to do some kind of return to randomized rule sets. And this is something that like Splinterlands had to deal with at one point. We used to have like daily quest, but like the earliest iteration of daily quest was basically like creating a situation where you could have like one set of cards. It was kind of like really weird. Like you would just you would only play with like, let's say like today was Fire Day, right? So then like you'd see people like only rent fire cards that day, or like people would send their different decks to like different accounts so that they could like kind of min max and get the most out of these rewards chests. And like technically it was like a valid strategy, but it wasn't really like what was in the best interest of the game. So I think that that's something that you guys have to figure out a way to address, and like that's mainly as a deterrent to multi-accounting. Like if they don't know that like this account's gonna get this rule set, and this account's gonna get this rule set, it doesn't create that unfair advantage to where you can kind of like keep almost like pin testing with different accounts. But then one of the other things too is like I said, I think a lot of people just really want some way to play for free. And it sounds like you guys are already like looking into that, like allowing them to like replay the gate levels. So, I think that
Yeah.
addresses two of the concerns right there. You guys are immediately stopping the rewards, probably like Monday. It sounds like regardless of the outcome of the proposal. And while they're paused, you're going to work to address these, like the concerns that are being brought up. So, just kind of like trying to recap for. I don't think everybody's been here the whole time, but I'm not seeing any more questions. So, did you want to recap anything else here since we're kind of coming up on an hour?
No, I know it's been an interesting couple of days, an interesting week on many levels. So no, thanks. Thanks again for everyone. I mean, I do think most people's hearts in the right place. And I hope you agree that ours is also, and more so though, we do want to make this an ecosystem and a game that's going to be a win for everyone who is involved. And we're really, really committed to that. So we hope we can do it together.
Awesome. Well, hopefully everybody will, at least have like a better understanding of the current situation and your guys' commitment to trying to get it resolved. And everyone, if you've already voted or if you want to go vote based on the conversation we've had today, I think you know it's important just to like keep it in mind, right? Like that ultimately, like the long play here is for Soulkeep to succeed and add value to the ecosystem, right? And yeah, it's kind of yeah, I think you said the analogy best, David, about throwing out the baby with the bathwater. At this point, it's kind of like if that's the route it goes, it's kind of like cutting it off before it really has a chance to walk. And I think that it could be short-sighted, but ultimately, this is a DAO. People are going to vote how they feel, and I hope that at least everyone kind of like has a better understanding of the situation, what's being done to rectify it, and like if we're pausing rewards temporarily while things get fixed, hopefully that's all it is, just like a short pause, get things back on track, and then hopefully forward into success so that it benefits the whole ecosystem. I think that's ultimately what we all want, right? People held these packs for what, like 2 years before a game got released, so it's
Yeah,
like ultimately, I think we all want this project to succeed. I think it's just a question of how we get from point A to point B at this point. Yeah.
totally agree. Yeah, and thanks again for Clay for all you've done and for hosting this and um, being a vocal, trying to be a vocal diplomat on all sides here, and uh, you know, get data based decisions and truth out there.
Yeah, we got one more question here at the finish line. It looks like from Fluid. This may be too early for you to answer, but if there's going to be a reset, how will that work with souls? Basically, people spent a lot of money to get soul boxes and assets. Like on tickets. Will they keep the souls that were paid for? Will they get like, will they be compensated for like the I guess like the resources spent in the game or the time spent in the game? Like what are your thoughts on like how to address that, or are you guys still kind of like working on that?
No, that's the key question, and then that's why resets are so tough. And but that's where we're at. So we're gonna have to do a reset and start from there, but hopefully with a new pool.
Okay, and I think definitely talking to the community about how to handle things like seasonal resets, because I've seen a few people pushing back on that, like the idea that having, especially like if they're going to be like full resets, having to like go in and like redo the resources every so often. So I think, again, this is a situation where it's just kind of like talk to the community, figure out like what they're wanting, what they think works. That's
Yeah,
one thing that like I've definitely learned through my time with Splinterlands. A lot of times the community, like, look, I'm not gonna say the community's always right. Like, you can get like a million different suggestions, but like overall, you can generally build a consensus of like, if people are saying like this is a problem and more people are saying it's a
yeah,
problem, usually it's a pretty good indicator. If more and more people are saying like, we want something, like, man, like I'm like, I'll tell you this, like I'm really glad Splinterlands is finally listening, because dude, I've been telling them since before Chaos came out, like we need more pack types, we need like starter
yep,
packs, and like finally, like it's taken 3 sets, but we're finally getting them. So I think I think it's important to basically just kind of like just listen to what people are telling you they want ultimately. And I mean, I'm not saying every decision needs to be like knee jerk based off of what the community's saying, but like in general, especially like in gaming, if people are telling you like this is what I want, it's usually a good indicator of what they want to buy.
yep. Yeah, and I guess, and just in closing here, I mean, there are two very different groups, right? There's the players of the game. Um, There's probably three different groups. There's casual players of the game. There's the hardcore min maxer players of the game, and then there's the biggest group is just SPS holders who are not game players at all. They might not, maybe even never launched the game or just checked it out once or twice. And in closing argument is the game grows and those two previous player groups grow. It's good for the third group, right? It's just it really is good for the SPS ecosystem. I think it's been good, maybe undervalued, and it's only going to go up from here, I believe, if we all support it. So that's that's
Yeah, I
my
think it.
that's my take. Feel free to pillar me on Discord, but yeah, I really believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal, whether it's just Splinterlands, Soulkeep, or like anything else. Bringing more people into the ecosystem so that we can grow this thing. And to me, like I think of Web3 gaming overall as just like a paradigm shift against the legacy. Like the honestly, man, like I don't want to offend you too much here, because I know you guys are like a mobile development studio first, but like dude, over the years, like watching as like the industry has moved into like like free to play and like live services. Like to me, the biggest miss was players not owning anything. Because like I can remember like mobile trading card games. I probably put thousands and thousands of dollars into, and then like whenever I quit playing, like there's just nothing. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think Web3 is so important, right? Like even with something like Soulkeep, you can sell your towers. You can arguably you can burn your towers for deck if you want to. You can take some token earnings. It's not all just like fueling a company. Like it returns value to the players, and to me, like that's one of the most important things about Web3 gaming. And hopefully the more people we bring into this ecosystem, it benefits all of us.
Right on. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for coming out, David. Hopefully, I will share the video around and try to make sure everybody can make informed votes, and hopefully we get to keep working together, and Soul Keep succeeds.
Yep. Here to that. And yeah, hope we'll be having a lot of conversations in the upcoming weeks. So yeah, hoping for the best here.
Awesome. Well, have a great weekend, dude, and I will see you around the community.
Happy Saturday, everybody.